Picture the early 1400s. The world is on the edge of transformation, but no one knows it yet. Europe's still reeling from the Black Death, kingdoms are fighting for survival, and Portugal is a small, often overlooked country clinging to the far edge of the Iberian Peninsula. Portugal had just finished the Reconquista, kicking out the Moors after centuries of struggle, and suddenly found itself with a surplus of restless knights and a king eager for glory, adventure, and new opportunities. The country was poor, boxed in by a powerful Spain, and its only real asset was a long, wild stretch of Atlantic coastline, battered by wind and waves. Land expansion was impossible, so the ocean became their only option, a vast unknown that promised both danger and hope. Most Europeans thought the Atlantic was full of monsters and certain death, but Portugal's fishermen and sailors, hardened by generations at sea, knew the ocean better than anyone. This deep-rooted maritime culture was Portugal's secret weapon, giving them skills and courage that set them apart from their neighbors. While other nations were tangled in endless continental drama and wars, Portugal looked to the horizon, imagining new worlds and possibilities beyond the known map. The monarchy and ambitious merchants saw the ocean as a highway to untold wealth, power, and influence, dreaming of fortunes that lay far beyond Europe. They were tired of being Europe's afterthought and wanted direct access to the legendary riches of the East, spices, gold, and silks that could change their fate. It was a risky move, one that could end in disaster, shipwreck, or glory. The stakes were high, and the unknown was terrifying. Spoiler, it changed the world. Portugal's boldness would open up new trade routes and connect continents like never before. Portugal was about to step out of the shadows and into history, setting the stage for an age of exploration that would reshape the globe. Why did Portugal risk everything to sail into the unknown? What drove a small nation on the edge of Europe to launch ships into uncharted waters, facing storms, monsters, and the very real possibility of never returning home? 3 words: God, gold, and glory. These weren't just slogans. They were powerful forces that shaped the dreams and ambitions of an entire generation. Spices from Asia, pepper, cloves, cinnamon, were Europe's hottest commodities, worth more than their weight in gold. But Italian city-states like Venice and Genoa controlled the trade, acting as gatekeepers and jacking up prices for everyone else. Portugal wanted a direct route to the source, cutting out the middlemen and breaking the Italian monopoly. They dreamed of sailing around Africa to reach India themselves. Religion was a big motivator, too. After centuries of fighting the Moors, the Portuguese were fired up by the idea of spreading Christianity to new lands and maybe even finding the legendary Christian king Prester John somewhere in Africa or Asia. Glory mattered. For a small, relatively poor nation, discovering new lands meant fame, honor, and a shot at greatness on the world stage. It was a chance to put Portugal on the map. For sailors, it was a chance to go from nobodies to legends, to return home as heroes, or at least to chase adventure far beyond the familiar shores of Europe. There was also genuine curiosity. Some wanted to map the world, understand the winds, and push the boundaries of knowledge. The age of exploration was also the age of discovery, and Portugal was at its heart. It wasn't just about money or faith. It was about seeing what lay beyond the horizon, about daring to imagine a world bigger than anyone had ever seen. All these motives mixed together in Portugal, creating a perfect storm of ambition, restlessness, and hope for something greater. The country was ready to light the fuse, to take the first step into the unknown, and change history forever. The only question was, who would strike the match? The answer? Prince Henry, the visionary who set Portugal's sights on the open sea. Enter Prince Henry the Navigator, the mastermind, not the sailor. He never captained a ship himself, but his vision would change the world forever. Henry was the ultimate project manager, using his royal influence and resources to sponsor daring voyages down Africa's coast, pushing the boundaries of the known world. He set up a think tank at Sagres, gathering the best mapmakers, shipbuilders, and sailors from across Europe. This was a hub of innovation, where new ideas and technologies flourished. Henry's goals were classic and ambitious: spread Christianity, find Prester John, a legendary Christian king rumored to rule somewhere in Africa, and tap into Africa's rumored gold and slave markets, hoping to bring wealth and power back to Portugal. Each voyage was a risky investment with no guarantee of success, but Henry played the long game, believing that persistence would pay off. Early expeditions were terrifying. Sailors feared boiling seas, sea monsters, and the unknown dangers lurking south of Cape Bojador. It took over a dozen tries before Gilleans finally sailed past it in 1434, proving the old legends false and opening the door to further exploration. Henry's real genius was turning exploration into a systematic, state-sponsored project, rather than a series of isolated adventures. His school at Sagres collected data, improved maps, and shared knowledge, creating a foundation for future explorers to build upon. He built the infrastructure and fostered a culture of curiosity and ambition that would fuel future discoveries for generations. Henry didn't sail the ships, but he charted the course for an empire, guiding Portugal toward greatness. Thanks to his vision, Portugal was ready for the next leap into the unknown, standing on the edge of a new era of discovery. Portugal needed better ships to conquer the Atlantic. The answer was the caravel. Small, light, and equipped with lateen sails that could tack against the wind. Caravels let sailors explore far and return safely, unlocking the Atlantic for real exploration. Navigation also leaped forward. Henry's school combined practical sailing with astronomy and cartography. They created portolan charts, detailed maps of coasts and hazards, and improved tools like the astrolabe. Sailors could now determine latitude, making long voyages less of a gamble. Each expedition became a scientific mission map the coast, record winds, document everything. Data from every trip updated maps and improved planning. This methodical approach gave Portugal a huge edge. The world's map grew with every voyage. They weren't just exploring, they were rewriting the world. The age of discovery was truly underway. By the 1480s, Portugal had crept down Africa's coast, but the sea route to India was still a mystery. Did Africa ever end? No one knew. In 1487, King John II sent Bartolomeu Dias to find out. Dias sailed south, braving storms and unknown waters. A brutal storm blew his ships far into the Atlantic for 13 days. Panic set in. When the storm cleared, Dias turned east, then north, and finally spotted land. He'd unknowingly rounded Africa's southern tip. The Atlantic and Indian Oceans were connected. Dias wanted to push on to India, but his exhausted crew refused. On the way back, they saw the rocky Cape Dias named the Cape of Storms. King John II, ever the optimist, renamed it the Cape of Good Hope. The way to India was now open. Portugal had broken through the final barrier. The world was about to get a lot bigger. With Africa's tip rounded, it was time for the main event reaching India. Vasco da Gama, a tough and determined nobleman, led the 1497 expedition. He used the bold maneuver, sailing far into the Atlantic to catch favorable winds. After months at sea, da Gama's fleet rounded the Cape and headed up Africa's east coast. Local rulers were wary, but in Malindi, Kenya, da Gama found an ally and a skilled Arab pilot. Guided by monsoon winds, they crossed the Indian Ocean. In May 1498, da Gama reached Calicut, India. Mission accomplished. The Zamarin of Calicut was unimpressed by Portugal's gifts. But the spice trade was now open. The return trip was brutal, but the cargo of pepper and cinnamon was worth a fortune. Da Gama's success proved the sea route worked. Portugal had connected Europe to Asia by sea. The world's first global trade network was born. Da Gama's voyage changed everything. Portugal quickly built a maritime empire, fortified trading posts from Africa to India to Southeast Asia. They didn't conquer vast lands, they controlled the ports and the spice trade. In 1500, Pedro Álvares Cabral, aiming for India, accidentally landed in Brazil. Brazil became a future gold mine for Portugal: sugar, gold, diamonds. Portuguese influence spread worldwide, trading in Africa, battling for spice routes in Asia, reaching China and Japan. For a century, Portugal ran a global network connecting continents and cultures. The age of discovery rewired the world, launching the Columbian Exchange and global trade. Portugal's voyages brought wealth and power, but also exploitation and colonialism. The world became interconnected, sometimes for better, often for worse. Portugal's story is about bold sailors, new maps, and the birth of our modern, complicated world. The age of exploration had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The world was now truly global.